right, everybody, welcome to the Rugby Hive. Today we're going to look into the 2020 in 2021 Olympic Sevens Games. We're joined by an England international sevens legend, Ben Gollings, as well as an expert on the ground in Tokyo, just arrived in the bullet train in Tokyo, is legendary sevens captain from Japan, Chiharu Nakamura. Welcome, Chiharu.
Thank you. Hi. Glad to hear.
We're just going to dive into the women's pools today. Obviously, last week we went through each pools for the men's side. Chiharu's played against a number of these teams and obviously played with the Japanese side. We reached out to her because she's actually obviously on the ground. So Chiharu, how is your team and how's the preparation looking?
We preparing very well. As you know, we are now in hottest place in Japan, named Kumagaya. So we're good preparation for hot weather.
And how hot is it right now?
Almost 40 degrees now. Super hot and humid.
That's most likely going to add to the advantage of the Japanese athletes, both the men and women. Before we dive into the three pools here, Ben, Chiharu, if you want to just share what your build-up's been like the last few weeks and what the excitement around the Olympic Games in Tokyo.
It's a special Olympic for us after the COVID pandemic. So it's quite a lot of things we need to get over, but we're so exciting.
Wonderful. And for all those fans out there, Chiharu obviously captained Japan at the 2016 Rio Games. What does it mean to you after going across the world and competing at the Olympic Games and actually, having post-World Cup? What is this going to do for Japanese rugby for young boys and girls?
Yeah, the last World Cup was a quite big impact for Japan. The rugby was not that much matured sport in Japan, but after World Cup, Japanese all love the rugby, and they realized how much the rugby was a great sport. So we need to that again for the Olympics. As a host Olympic.
Wonderful. I can only dream that one day we'll host the Olympics and have the Olympic Sevens here in Canada. And obviously announced recently, Vancouver and Edmonton will be hosting a World Series events post-Olympics. So that'll be very exciting. As we turn, Ben, to Pool A, we have New Zealand, Russia, Great Britain, and Kenya. And obviously the Russians gained a berth recently at the repechage in Monaco. So Ben, if you want to dive into New Zealand for us.
Yeah, Darren, what a fantastic pool to start with. You got New Zealand. We take them first. Obviously, look back to Rio 2016. They came up second best with a silver medal, and I think since then they've been putting every effort into wanting to rewrite those books because currently going into this Olympics, I think they're a standout favourite. They've been pretty dominant on the World Series for the last few years. You've got the likes of Portia Woodman, who, out on the wing there for New Zealand, although she does move into the forwards at times, is just so dominant, such a strong runner and such a good finisher. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot of her alongside Michaela Blyde, who, again, I think is one of the top try scorers currently on the World Series. So, and then you've got people like Kelly Brazier, Ruby Tuai, Nathan Wong. They've got a team stacked full of people that we know about. And so they're going to come in hot favourites. And I would expect to see them, having watched them in some of the warm-up tournaments recently against Australia and Samoa and the like, they haven't lost any form. I think they've had a good build-up. They'd be a hot favourite for myself. If we then move on to Great Britain, as with the men, they obviously had a disappointment early on with COVID where their team got disbanded. But I think they've rallied and, under the coaching prowess of James Rodwell, who's obviously had an Olympics himself, so he knows what it's all about. I think they've had some good preparation. They put together a pretty impressive squad with a lot of experience. One of the girls in Celia Quinosh actually, I think, competed in a games before as a heptathlete. So you start to see that kind of different flavour with the women's in how there's a lot of crossover athletes, which is just fantastic for the sport. But Deborah Fleming, Alex Matthews, Abby Brown as captain, all big game players for Great Britain. So they'll be interesting because they're coming in as a bit of an unknown. They have done well in their warm-up, but they haven't really been tested as a squad like this So it'd be really good to see them. And I know they're going to push New Zealand all the way. One would hope they do. Then you've got Russia. Well, what a story for them, massive Olympic nation, and what an exciting win they had in Monaco not long ago. And you could see kind of how much it meant to them by how passionate they were afterwards in their celebrations. And I think they've always been a fun side. Very early on in women's rugby, they were one of the dominant sides for a while. They've always been a strong team. And you've got the likes of Bazit Karmadova, who's a dominant force in their team. And also I think it's their captain, Alina Tiron, who's also got a world of experience. So in this group, they're a banana skin. They could beat anybody on their day. They've beaten the likes of GB and New Zealand. So coming into an Olympic Games for the first time, we're going to see some interesting performances. And then Kenya, right at the end here, Kenya got into the Olympics by default. But if you're a team, you don't mind how you get into the Olympics. The fact that you're there representing, unfortunately, South Africa pulled their side, and so they didn't want to send to the Olympics. So that just gave opportunity to Kenya. And we know how strong the men are. And I think the women, they play very similar. They're a very strong outfit. They throw the ball around, and they've got a lot of experience with their captain, Philadelphia Orlando. So for me, they'll be one to watch because they'll push, but they are up against some strong sides in this pool A.
Chiharu, what's your take on Pool A? Who do you like in this pool?
I'm very excited about the New Zealand versus Russia. They are so physical team, and the New Zealand is quite speedy team. So I'm so excited.
So for me, New Zealand obviously coming off the 20. I mean, that team's almost the core of that team's been together for over a decade. They've won multiple Sevens World Cups. They've won 15s World Cups together. Portia, who you mentioned, Ben, she come back from a serious leg injury and is in top form. So yeah, that pool is going to be very dangerous to see for sure. As we lead into Pool B, I'll obviously dive into Canada. The big story here with Canada has been changing of the guard. Canadian legend, 15s player John Tate, that helped build that program for a number of years and build the infrastructure. There was a changing of the guard over COVID. COVID added a lot of pressure to the training environment and to the athletes and to the staff. As a result, they've taken an Australian coach, Mick Burns, will be leading them at the upcoming weekend. Those athletes have been there a long time. For me, the top players to look for is Bianca Ferrella. She's one of the top finishers in the world. She's big, she's strong, she's powerful, and she's on form. And the other one's Kayla Molesky, Williams Lake star. That girl's, again, both those girls are bronze medalists. They have all the experience. They got a good head on their shoulder, and they'll be looking to lead that side.
They're a side that are always in a top three situation in the World Series. As you've said there, Robin, they always put a lot of time and effort into this squad. So that they're a team that's going to be going to the Olympics with the want to come away with a medal. I'm sure, obviously gold, but bronze and silver would be massive for that team. We move on to France, and France, I think, is one of the on-form teams currently coming into this Olympics. They've kind of gone from strength to strength. They really put a lot of time into their program, and Fanny Horter, who's their captain, she's been around for a long time, and she's got a lot of experience. When she's on fire, this team's on fire. And, they're an exciting, we like to say the French, jouer, but they play that style of rugby. They're physical, but they can also move the ball, and they've got some fantastic finishes. And quite exciting for Anna Cecile Ciafano, whose parents both competed in the Olympics. So I know that would be a pretty massive moment that as a daughter that you're going to go on and represent in the Olympics as well. So France are a team that are coming in well prepared and will be one to watch in this pool. Moving on then, we've got Fiji, who again have had a pretty good build-up, quiet because of not a lot of rugby, but they're a team that can put it together, emulate the style in which the men's play. They love to throw the ball around. They've got a fantastic offload game. One thing for Fiji will be whether they can just stay within games. If they stay within teams, having just watched them in a warm-up competition with Australia and New Zealand, they push them the whole way. And bit of belief, and again, they're a side that in this pool will open things up. And then lastly, Brazil. They've had the beauty now of back-to-back Olympics, having hosted the Olympics in Rio in 2016. they've been developing their squad throughout that period and come in as a really strong side. This, to me, is probably one of the pools that's wide open. Brazil offer a really major threat and, again, can beat anybody. The same with Fiji, the same with France, the same with Canada. So trying to pick actually who could come out on top in this pool. I know, Robin, you've got a little bit of a favourite, which is understandable. But for me, I think it's going to be quite an exciting pool to watch.
Yeah, and for Brazil, just got to give Ari Guerrero, my Italian friend, that's the performance coach with Brazil. I've had some insight into their program. They've obviously changed coaches as well. So there's been a number of coaching changes during COVID. And the interesting thing for this pool is see how those new coaches will take the team forward, as well as how the team's going to react to having new coaches so close to obviously a 4-year, which is almost obviously a 5-year cycle. Chiharu, anything from you on this pool?
I'm looking for the Brazil team, as they are challenging situation, but they have the free camp in Japan, and it seems so energetic, and they have great vibes. So when they are on fire, I'm really excited what's gonna happen.
Yeah, Bianca Silva can score from anywhere, and she's made many teams pay from coming from her own end. So she's very, very dangerous.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things here, Robin, is that due to COVID, obviously, and the lack of rugby that's being played, a lot of these teams come in as unknowns, which is quite an exciting opportunity for them, because you can do all of the research and the video analysis on these teams, but ultimately you're only basing that on a long time prior performances. These teams have all had a long time to develop, and you're going to come in here and, really we're only going to get to see what they do when we start to see them play on those first few days. So for a team like Brazil, who again also adaptable, they're used to quite harsh heat environments, could well shine in this environment in Japan.
And as we move to Pool C, the reigning gold medal champs from the inaugural 2016 Sevens, obviously again with a new coach at the helm.
Flip side to New Zealand, Australia, obviously they're always up there, but they've not been as dominant as they were leading into that 2016 Olympics in Rio. You've got a lot of the same names and players within the team, and for a fact that I think with the Olympics they're going to raise their game. They've had a pretty good lead in, and they've had some good hit outs against New Zealand, but interestingly enough, they've not at this stage been able to actually get a victory over them, which could play on them, but they also know on their day they can beat anybody. And you got Shannon Parry and Shani Williams as co-captains who provide a pretty good foundation for this team. You've got the likes of Charlotte Caslick, who's proved to be one of the best ball players in the female game currently, along with some serious finishes in Emma Tonangado. So you've got a good balanced team, but they've not actually I think hit the real potential that they could. And so it'll be interesting to see if they do that now in the Olympics, which is obviously a stage you really want to. So they're definitely up there as medal contenders. It'll be interesting to see how they go. Next up, USA. USA have just been getting stronger and stronger, haven't they? They're a dominant force. They're led exceptionally well by their captains, but then the player that they really feed off is Alev Kelter, who's really strong in there in the midfield for them and provides a great platform to be able to move the ball and play off, alongside some really kind of threatening finishes out wide. So US probably suffered for the fact they haven't been able to play as much rugby, which is similar to everybody. So they come in here, I think, full of confidence that they know that, again, on their day, they can take a pool out. And I'm pretty sure we'll see them in a quarterfinal spot come the finals time. And then to a team that I do actually know pretty well, having coached the Chinese leading into the last Olympics. Unfortunately, though, Chiharu, they'd already qualified, but they kind of showed us a dominant force during that period, and rightly so, because Japan were a fantastic side. But you got to make up here of a team of really good footballers. One to watch is Chen Kai-yi, also known as Emily, who I think could actually play in any team on the World Series. She's a standout performer for China, fantastic finisher, can play a lot of positions. So they'll be looking for her for a lot of experience in go forward, along with Yang Min, their captain, again, who's really, really smart ball player as a forward. Liu Xiao Chen, she's come from strength to strength. She suffered with injury a while back, but she's come into the squad. And knowing this team, they've got a really well-balanced team. I'm excited to see how they perform. And if we put it into context, the likes of a Russia and a China getting into the Olympics, they're two huge Olympic nations. So in terms of for their countries and what it does for the sport is fantastic, which, is what we want to see as well as them performing in the Olympics. I'm going to hand over to Chiharu because she knows the Japanese side inside out.
In Japan team, we have new youngster, Yume Hirano. She reading team and she's only just 21 years old, but she is so smart and she has good enough experience for World Series, so she's gonna read the team. And a few more things. We have a few new cap players and new speed stars. So our physical was not great enough, but maybe we can show the new Japanese style for this Olympic. Yeah.
Great. And for you in this pool, Chiharu, who do you like?
I like Chen Qi, Chinese flat. She is quite good finisher and she can control the game. And we keep focusing on her.
Good. So I'm going to put you guys all in the hot seat.
Love pressure.
A lot of pressure. I want you to pick your top team for Pool A, Ben.
Pretty hard to go past New Zealand currently. I think it's that's one of the set teams.
Chiharu, for Pool A, who's your choice? New Zealand, Russia, Great Britain, or Kenya?
New Zealand.
New Zealand, okay.
Yeah.
Pool B, you have Canada, France, Fiji, and Brazil. Ben.
Yeah, look, interesting one with Pool B. I'm going to say France. I think they're probably one of the on-form teams in this pool coming into the Olympics, and I've really been impressed with the way they're playing. So that's my hat tip for Pool B.
Chiharu, for Pool B, Canada, France, Fiji, or Brazil?
Brazil.
Brazil. All right, we're none of us are on the same page. So for me, Canada, France, Fiji, Brazil. I'm going to have to go with Canada, of course. No bias there. And Ben, Australia, USA, China, or Japan for Pool C?
I'm going to say this pool, Australia, although it's not going to be an easy few days in the office for them. I think they'll come up trumps, but it's going to be a real test, this pool.
Of course, Japan.
There it is. Good. Yeah. You have to. I'll go Pool A. I'm going to go New Zealand. Pool B, Japan. Pool C, I'm going to go USA. As a North American, friends to the South, a big fan of a lot of those women that have been building. A lot of them were brought in the program by legendary Canadian coach Rick Sudgett. And just want to see the North American side be successful, but also, again, Australia are returning, gold medal champions, and teams like Japan, Fiji, Brazil, and Russia can break hearts any day. So that's our analysis on the women. Catch us over the weekend. We'll be going Facebook and Instagram live in between the games after the pools finish up to give you some day-by-day, play-by-play feedback, and also our guesses, our predictions on who's going to win a medal. Before we wrap up, Ben, what's the rest of your week looking like?
Well, pretty excited, Robin, because we've got the opening ceremony tonight, so we're going to be full eyes on that, because I'm pretty sure Japan's going to put on an impressive spectacle in the current situation. I think it's been a lot of anticipation around this. I think it's fantastic. It's going ahead, and we get to see that. So that'll be the start of it, and then quite a bit of rugby over the weekend with my son representing his school, and my other son playing for club. My daughter actually playing junior under sixes. And then we've got the British and Irish Lions test coming up as well, which is going to be a pretty awesome game. And then really a bit of a rest before we get stuck into the Olympics that kicks off straight away on Monday. So for me, quite a bit of rugby.
Love it. Chiharu, what's the rest of your week look like on the ground in Tokyo?
It's quite hot and humid, but I feel like a little bit weird. It's not normal preparation for the tournament. So I'm so excited, but it feels like what is going on. But
a lot of emotions for the athletes, and obviously just the occasion of the Olympics changes things. Yeah. On my side, Ben, I just wrapped up my first big week at camp. So in my hometown in the Cowichan Valley, I ran a coaches evening for some local coaches for our MacDowell Rugby Island Academy. A number of athletes, some recruits that are thinking of coming to our academy this fall, and some of the ones that are already committed. And so we ran some sessions Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we had about 50, 60 minis on the field Tuesday, Wednesday night in the early evening. And then we had 30, 40 teens on the field later that evening. So no boys left. And then quick turnaround today. And I'm getting on an airplane, Chiharu, for the first time in a year and a half since COVID hit to go back to beautiful northern BC to Prince Rupert to guest coach with the Thunder Indigenous Rugby program with a couple Canadian legends to grow the game. And while I'm on the ground there, we'll be making sure those kids' eyes are all on the Olympic Games to watch their heroes from around the world.
Yeah, that's all. I think under the current circumstances, I think it's really nice just to hear how much rugby's going on around the globe. It always puts a smile on people's faces. It's great seeing youngsters still out there getting to run around and just enjoy the game for what it is. And my last comment will be wishing Chiharu all the best for herself and Japan and what will be, I'm sure, a pretty amazing Olympics, and an Olympics that will be spoken about for a very long time, hopefully for the right reasons, through what we're going to see in the next few weeks when there's going to be a lot of highs and a lot of lows, but that's sport. So good luck and bring it on.
Thank you very much.
All right. So you can catch us on all our socials at Rugby Hive on Twitter and Facebook. On Instagram, it's at MyRugbyHive. And of course, on the website, www.rugbyhive.ca. And for our podcast, just search Rugby Hive. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Cheers, Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chiharu.